So this whole conversation started because there's a lot of hype around IoT, obviously right now. There's a lot of hype around smart cities. And in the conversations, it all seems kind of ethereal. And I don't have to tell y'all that tech is hard to touch and the impact is hard to touch. It all seems like this stuff is coming, but none of it's quite here yet. And then I had the great fortune to meet Bert Haskell, Chief Technology Officer for Pecan Street, and took a tour of the lab just right here in Austin in Mueller, 3 miles down the road that way, and I was absolutely blown away that it's really smart city technology in action and has been for a number of years since 2010. Thank you. Yeah. So I thought, what a cool opportunity to not just talk about the future and what's coming and how important smart city technology and IoT is to real world problems right here in our communities, but what's actually already been happening. So I pulled a line from the website that I think is kind of fantastic. Smart cities there's such an opportunity to solve the very real challenges in our cities. And this is from the Pecan Street website. They say, we're not trying to solve all the world's challenges, just the 2 biggest ones, water and energy. I thought that was really wise. So before we get into Pecan Street, Bert, just tell us.
As far as Pecan Street goes, we're actually set up as a nonprofit. We got a $10 million grant in 2010, thanks to our CEO, Brewster McCracken. He wrote a grant. He was the only employee. And we won that. Basically, it was a energy efficiency stimulus grant, and he won it for Austin. And so we set about monitoring people's energy usage and also subsidizing their acquisition of rooftop solar and electric vehicles. And by doing those 2 things, and also by not being run by a utility, but actually being run as an independent company, we were able to achieve some things that none of those other grants were able to achieve in terms of actually installing things behind the meter and getting customer data. So
at the same time, smart cities, we were just talking with Beverly Ryder from Ericsson last night, and she's leading voice in IoT and smart cities. And one of the things that she kept talking about was just how difficult it is for cities and municipalities who have always looked at technology companies as vendors, and now it's a changed paradigm. It can't be the city over here just doing contracts with companies. It really needs to be a collaborative effort, and I think you guys are very early in that world, really testing it and showing positive results of what happens when you get university and private sector partners and public sector partners in kind of a safe collaborative space where it is truly a lab and you can experiment and ask questions and form hypotheses and say, nope, that's not it, let's go down this road, nope, that's not it, let's go down this road, and have the opportunity to kind of experiment that way.
Sure. What else?
Well, it seems like you all have kind of created either the Holy Grail or the Pandora's box for smart cities.
Yeah.
I guess time will tell, right?
Right.
And from the outside looking in, where there's so many cities facing these challenges, and you guys have just, I think, really onto something in terms of the model. I mean, what's next? Do you replicate labs all across the U.S.? Do cities come to Austin, Texas, to learn how to do this and potentially license the technology?
Right.
How can we take what you have done and make it in service of cities all across the U.S.?
Right. That's a great question, and we spend a huge amount of time hosting visitors from other countries.
Yeah.
We're probably more well known outside of Texas and the U.S. than we are here.
Interesting.
Even. Yeah, for sure.
Why is that the case?
Maybe, like you said, France is doing something. These other countries, this is not a good generalization because the U.S. has so many different regions. But in general, there are some other countries that take this a lot more seriously, this kind of stuff. And so, and there's also, so we show them what we're doing. We have tried to commercialize that. It's like there's a revenue stream around just telling people how we do what we do, because we can make things quickly, we can install them, and so there is an opportunity to do that, but it ends up getting done kind of in our spare time is how it mostly happens.
Yeah.
But it does open, that visibility opens us up to, the opportunity to get into maybe some international projects. And we've done a few of those. We did some stuff in Amsterdam.
Nice.
We might, we're looking at some stuff in Korea and India as well.
Yeah, those smart city projects are really inspiring, and at least in Amsterdam and some of the European countries, to your point about why isn't this happening all across the U.S., the geographic space is just so different. And when you're talking about building out cellular and mobile broadband networks, building across the size of the United States just requires a completely different allocation of time and resources than it does in a small geographic area. So maybe that's part of it, smaller, more nimble government.
Right.
Yeah.
So, are there, in all of this, right, small governments, they can sort of they can mandate the two things they want to solve and they go ahead and do it, right? And you guys have a lot of good technology, and it seems like you're working on a lot of different use cases and trying to educate as many different constituencies as possible. Maybe this is a question for you. Are there 2, 3 relatively low-hanging fruit type use cases that can start to roll this out on more than just like a city-by-city basis? Is there a baseline use case that you're starting to see municipalities, local governments across the U.S. start to really latch onto?
Yeah, it depends on what aspect of what we're doing you're kind of referring to. In terms of the IoT stuff, what we've observed is that it's really maker technologies that are driving IoT. IoT is not new in concept, and the same with data analytics. So, what we're doing is we're developing deep domain expertise. So IoT and data analytics skill sets are kind of useless without domain expertise. And so that's what we're really focusing on is how, we're driving in community, we're developing domain expertise on things that are of importance to our local community. And we'd like to see other people doing that. If you want to, if the way we see automated control, in fact, we're writing a proposal right now to the DOE to do something that looks like that monitor, except it's going to sit on a utility transformer. It's going to measure the load of every home connected to that transformer, and it's going to measure the energy flow in the transformer and the temperature. It's going to also measure the phase angle, and it'll have a GPS timestamp on it, so you can actually do topology discovery of your grid. Something like that could be used to inform centralized control the way they do today, but another benefit would be for low latency local control. So if that transformer controller can talk to the houses connected to it and tell the batteries or a request that the battery charges and discharges, it can actually nip problems in the bud before they spread to the rest of the network. And all that can happen independently at that location and not be subject to the vulnerabilities of a centralized control system. So that we're very much working towards a highly distributed control architecture that wouldn't be vulnerable to cascading failures and things like that.
Well, and that's the big promise with 5G, which is coming very quickly. So, systems talking to systems, right, and all distributed. Yeah, so how are you guys adjusting for the future of 5G? Does that factor into what you're doing? Will it be a cataclysmic shift, or will it be just a slow roll?
Well, again, we've got that cord sticking out of the box, so we'll just put a different, when people want to change radios, yeah, we're designing our system so that we can build a system with any radio anybody wants to use.
Smart.
And I think it really is about flexibility. There was a number of years where the whole smart grid, smart meter industry was held hostage by the standards groups. Mm-hmm. They said we're working on this Zigbee SEP 1.0 and 2.0, and this is going to make all these things possible. Yeah. And it was really it's an ugly mess. It doesn't work, and people were sitting around waiting to make changes to their infrastructure, mm-hmm, for this standard. So standards are important, but we in a lot of cases we let the standards people get out in front and sort of bottleneck the progress, and we don't do that. We just go, if the standard is not there or ready, we use something else. We want to make systems that work and discover the value proposition.
It'll be interesting to see if those things can operate on parallel paths. I know there's a lot of conversation about, new network rollouts in cities and smart cities, and municipality B will do it differently than municipality C. And so how do you manage the kind of efficiencies between those technologies, and our cities replicating all of that?
Right.
Is it just a great mess? Should we look at kind of statewide or regional rollouts, or is it okay that it's messy in the beginning and everything will just kind of figure itself out at the end?
In my opinion, it's fine. I think what's important is that the community studies the problem and designs the solution in a way that's satisfying to them.
Nice.
And